Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update. Join the only official Telegram channel of RAU'S IAS Study Circle to get relevant material and important updates.
Hello everyone and welcome to Daily News Simplified, your one-stop solution to detailed analysis of current affairs which are published in the Delhi edition of Hindu newspaper and the explained section of Indian Express. Articles dated 14th of November 2021 from the Hindu newspaper and the entire week of explained Express section has been displayed on your screen. And the timestamping for these articles is given in the description box. So let us begin with the first article for the day.
So this article was published in the Indian Express explained section on 18th of November 2021. This article actually talks about the impact of COVID-19 global pandemic on India's learning process. That is, how this pandemic has impacted and has created numerous issues and challenges, especially in the young minds, children who are in the classes or standards between 1 to 5. The relevance of this article comes from the fact that as this article is based on the ACER report, so UPSC can ask questions in the prelim examination related to the ACER report. In the mains examination, questions could be asked related to the impact of pandemic on education as well as health. This is important for your general studies paper 2 and 3. So from this article itself, we will learn about the ACER survey, its background and the agency, and we will also look into some of the observations made by this survey in the recent report. The importance of this article also comes from the fact that in 2020 mains examination, UPSC has asked questions related to the digital initiative in the functioning of education system in India. And as we know that COVID crisis has brought a new game changer opportunity for India in order to bring the digital initiative into the grassroots education level, that is the primary one. So let us understand first what this survey is all about. Well, ACER survey stands for Annual Status of Education Report. It is a nationwide survey of rural education, not the urban one. It provides the learning outcomes in terms of reading and arithmetic skills, whether a child can read a particular text given in the different languages, and whether the child can solve basic mathematical questions or not. This survey is prepared by an NGO with the name Pratham, and this survey has been prepared for the last 15 years and published annually. It uses the data from Census 2011 as a sampling frame and continue to be an important national source of information about children's foundation skills. Apart from this survey, we also have many other surveys, including the survey on National Achievement Survey conducted by the government. However, Annual Survey of Education Report remains one of the most benchmark survey as far as rural education, especially the primary education, is concerned. As per the observation of this survey, there is a dependence by the families on the private tuition nationwide. And along with this, absence of smartphones, especially to the poor family, has worsened the situation further, and this has reduced the learning capability of those small young minds. This has also seen that because of the poor accessibility by the private schools, there is an unprecedented jump in the government school students or the enrollment in the government school. Because more or less, government school have such kind of basic facilities vis-a-vis the private schools in rural areas. When it comes to the urban areas, private schools are far ahead of the government schools. This unprecedented jump in the government school enrollment is so much that it has been the lowest enrollment in the private school in the last 10 years. And this is because of the COVID crisis. Since 2006, there was a continuous decline in the government schools enrollment. However, it has stabilized since 2018 at 65%. It simply means that out of every 100 students in rural area, 65 of them are going to the government school and 35 of them are going to the private school. This ratio shows the kind of trust and accessibility that government is providing in the rural areas. However, as we have discussed previously, the role of private tuitions especially in the rural areas, has seen a quantum jump. And as the private tuitions does not provide the accessibility to the education, and they are mostly functioning on the physical appearances and conventional way of teaching, there is a least access to technology given to the youngest learner in the society. And all these observations of this report clearly shows that because of the lack of accessibility in the private sector and high dependence on the government sector, there is an outcome which shows that the young minds who are just in 1 to 3rd standard as of now have been going through the minimum standard of education in the country, and this is going to impact the next 5 to 10 years of their learning life. Apart from this, the article also showcased that National Achievement Survey of central government shows that primary grade kids or students have now been struggling to make sense of questions or even the basic comprehension or the numerical skills. Why? Because there is a gap of over 1 year in their learning abilities. One of the small assessment which took place in the state of Karnataka in the March 2021 shows that out of 20,000 children who were covered between the age of 5 to 15, there is a steep drop or a steep fall in their foundation skills. And we know that once foundation skills become very weak, it is hard for a child to grasp that technical knowledge in the education in the later years of their life. However, there is not all that is negative. There is one pointer which is a point to cheer. In 2010, it was observed that out of total student in the range of 15 to 16 years old, the dropout rate was 16%. However, currently it is only 6.6%, which shows that the dropout ratio is falling regularly in the country, and this not only promotes children to stay more longer in the schools, but it will also increase the overall literacy rate in the country and will definitely help India to achieve its goal under Human Development Indices. With this discussion in place, now I will leave you with this important pointer question. So practice this question and answer it in the comment box. Let us now move to the next article for the day. This explained article of Indian Express was published on 16th of November and talks about the impact of the high rise of inflation on Indian society in different parameters. The context of the article says that urban poor have been worst affected by inflation since the start of COVID-19 pandemic last year. And over the coming year, even the urban rich might feel the heat of high prices. Now, the article and the relevance of this article is important from both your prelims and the mains perspective, because UPSC has asked questions on the aspect of inflation multiple times in the prelim examination, and the same inflation could be asked as a role to play in the economic growth and development. Inflation also plays an important role as far as poverty and hunger is concerned, which is a matter of concern for your general studies paper 2. The content for this article would include the background mentioned in the article, the current situation of inflation in India, high inflation and why it is a matter of concern, and the impact of inflation on Indian society both in the urban and the rural areas. And we will do the statistical analysis of the entire structure of inflation and its impact on the Indian society. So let us start with the basic understanding of this article. Well, in the last year, that is 2020, India saw the adversities of COVID-19 crisis, because of which there was a shutdown and a complete lockdown in the entire nation. This has led to the slowdown of the Indian economy and landed India into the continuous or the negative growth rate for 2 consecutive quarters. This means that India went into the phase of recession. Because of the recession, the prices became weak. Lack of production, lack of demand shut down the entire market and the price mechanism was on the weaker side. However, after the post-pandemic, when the lockdown was completely removed, the entire economy came back on the platform and started performing. This has seen in the case of rise in demand. People who were restricted to spend their money on different goods and services are now coming into the market to spend their money. However, the supply of a particular good and the services takes time. And this has created a disbalance between what could be supplied and what is actually demanded in the market. The gap created by excess demand and limited supply has led to the scarcity of resources, ultimately causing the rise in prices. This rising prices, given the limited income which the poor section of the society currently have, causes the loss of their savings. And when they lose their savings, they end up going into the extreme form of poverty. And this extreme form of poverty will take India back on its knees as far as the developmental process which we have took in the last 2 decades. So given this entire flow chart, let us look into what is the current situation of inflation in the country as per this article. Well, India is not going through the stage of stagflation. Stagflation means stagnation in the economy plus inflation. It means that the GDP growth or GVA growth is stagnant. However, the inflation is regularly rising. But India is not going through this stage. Why? Because as of now, the stagnation is not there in the GDP. GDP is recovering very fast. However, the inflation is going through the regular trend. And this is the reason why we are commenting that India is not going through the phase of stagflation. However, since the opening of the markets in the last 6 months, there is a sudden rise in the demand as we have discussed that has led to the rise in the inflation as well. The inflationary trend is going to be there in the next 1 year because of the demand and supply gap. And this was a statement made by the chief economist of different top level banks in the country. The current trend of the inflation is not new. It is just the continuation of the past 2 years of inflation which we have been observing since 2019. But there is a difference this time. Previously, what we were having is that most of the inflationary forces were coming from food and fuel. And this has impacted the poor class most. But this time, it is not the headline inflation. This time, the major or the serious concern is that core inflation is higher than the headline inflation. Shortly, we will look into the basic reason behind this change. In the last few months, what we have seen that the fluctuation in the prices of fuel has been very high because of the excise duty imposed by different states as well as the center. And as we know that fuel remains the basic input in the production process as well as the transportation. So once there is a 10% rise in the fuel prices, it will lead at least 7 to 8% rise in the prices of a particular good. However, despite the rise in the fuel prices, there is an ease of food prices in the past few months. So, fuel prices were rising, however, food prices were moderating. And this is the reason why headline inflation remained on the downward side. But on the other side, the core inflation was rising regularly. And the basic reason for this was that there is a gradual rise in the service sector. There is a lack of supply chain in the short run, entire economy. Weak regional linkages due to the COVID lockdown. Poor integration of the international trade with India. And labor shortage, especially the labor which were moving from the poorer state to the wealthy states in India. All these reasons have led to the rising core inflation, and now core inflation has surpassed the headline inflation. And because of this, these are the following impact on the Indian society. So if you go through the table 1 of this slide, you will find that the CPI or the Consumer Price Inflation Index has shown the impact of inflation on different income classes. As you can see from the table, in the financial year 2021, highest impact of CPI inflation was seen in the bottom class of the society in the urban areas. However, in the rural areas, the impact was more or less same in all the classes. This impact is going to remain high even in the next financial year. But when we move to the consumption and the inflation patterns in the urban areas, we'll find that the bottom class, the bottom 20% of the Indian society in the urban areas spend 58% of their earning on food and beverages. And when prices of food and beverages are very high, it is going to impact this section of the society the most. On the other hand, the upper 20% spent hardly 35% on these things. Together, we will see that the core inflation impacts only 31% of the bottom 20% of the class and 60% of the top level. From both these tables, we can easily find out one relation, that headline inflation impacts the poor most and core inflation impacts the rich class most. Given this discussion now, we will move to the important question attached to this article. So read this question carefully and answer as a question number 2 in the comment box. With this now, we'll move to the next article for the day. The third article for today's discussion is also from the Indian Express Explained section and talks about the recent initiative taken by the central government and the government of Madhya Pradesh, in which they have renamed this railway station of Habibganj as the railway station on the name of Rani Kamlapati. Now, from the perspective of UPSC, we are concerned with this personality as well as the background of this event. The name of Bhopal's Habibganj railway station has been changed to Rani Kamlapati station. From the perspective of the prelim examination, it is important for us to understand that who was she and what is the relevance of Gond tribe in India. The content for this article would include who was Rani Kamlapati, basics about the Gondi tribe and Gondi people, and contribution of Gond in the modern history. Rani Kamlapati was the widow of Nizam Shah. Now, who was Nizam Shah? He was a ruler of Gond dynasty who ruled in Ginorgarh. He was the one who built the Kamlapati palace in Bhopal. Both these people were associated with the Gondi tribe. Gondi tribe or the Gondi people are Dravidian ethno-linguistic group and resides in the central and the central eastern part of India in the highest density. However, they are also present in the areas like Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Bihar and Odisha. They are part of scheduled tribe in India and are recognized under the Constitution of India. As you can see from this map, the darkest possible shaded district in India, that is the central and east central part of India, showcase the highest density of Gond people in India. However, there are states like Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh and many others where some category or some proportion of these tribes is also found. However, they are largely absent in the states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab and many other northern states. Haryana and Punjab are two states in India where the tribal population is one of the least. If we go by the contribution of the Gonds in modern history, well, Gonds were the marginalized people of the colonial forest management practices. The famous Bastar rebellion is also associated with this tribe where they struggled against the colonial forest policy for their rights. In 1920, Komaram Bhim, a Gond leader, this is also important from your prelims perspective. So he was a Gond leader from Adilabad near Hyderabad and rebelled against the Nizam to create a separate Gond Raj or the Gond state. It was he who coined the Welsh slogan Jal, Jungle and Zameen, which stands for water, forest and land. These kind of statements could be used in your ethics paper as well as your essay paper. With this discussion in place, now I will leave you with this important prelims related question. So read this question carefully and answer in the comment box. With this, now we move to the last article for the day, which is from the Hindu newspaper dated 14th of November 2021. Now we come to the last article for the day. This article was published in Hindu newspaper dated 14th of November in Science and Technology section and talks about the outbreak of Zika virus and an opportunity to improve healthcare in India. The context of the article says that the spread of Zika virus has created a concern for India and its susceptible population, which is already struggling with the COVID-19 crisis. The relevance of this article comes from the fact that in prelim examination, we should know every aspect of the Zika virus. In the mains examination, we need to understand about the disease burden in India. So, based on this, we will cover the emergence of Zika virus and its spread. We will also read about the basics of Zika virus, outbreak of Zika virus in India, and what needs to be done for India in order to control this and improve India's healthcare. As you can see in 2017 prelim examination, UPSC has already asked a question related to the Zika virus disease, its transmission and relation with the other disease like dengue. Emergence of Zika virus and its spread. Zika virus was first detected in rhesus monkey in the Zika forest of Uganda in 1947. And that is the reason why it is known as Zika virus. The first ever outbreak of this virus was reported in 2017. That is, for about 60 years, there was no major outbreaks associated with this virus. However, it was the large outbreak which took place in French Polynesia 2013 and Brazil in 2015 which made Zika to be a matter of concern. The important concern about this virus is that it causes the Guillain-Barré syndrome. Under this syndrome, there is a tingling and weakness starting in the feet and the leg of a person. Apart from this, it also may lead to the paralysis of a person. Zika virus, as we can see, it is transmitted primarily by the Aedes mosquito that bites during the day. So Aedes mosquito will bite the person A, the carrier of this virus. Then the same mosquito will bite person B. And this is the way how this virus will be transmitted. It is same as that we see during the cases of dengue, where the mosquito is responsible for the transfer of virus. If a pregnant lady gets infected by this virus, the born or the newborn baby will have the microcephaly or the small structure of brain issue. It may also cause to preterm birth or even the miscarriages. And that is the reason why pregnant ladies are considered to be the most vulnerable section of the society as far as this disease is concerned. It also leads to Guillain-Barré syndrome, as we have discussed, neuropathy and myelitis. Apart from the mosquito itself, this virus can be transmitted through the sexual contact, transfusion of bloods and blood product, and organ transplantation. So these are the four major mediums through which this virus could be transmitted. If we go through the question of the UPSC, now you can easily solve this question based on the discussions which we have already conducted. The symptom of this virus included fever, rash, conjunctivitis, muscle and joint pain, myelitis and headache. It could only be confirmed by the laboratory test. There is no homemade remedy available for the diagnosis. And this diagnosis is based on the human fluids such as urine or the semens. There is no treatment available for the Zika virus as of now. So far, there is no licensed vaccine available, and there is no specific treatment in any part of the world. However, those people who are infected with this virus are advised to take rest, eat well and drink plenty of fluids, because drinking fluids help during the fever of a person. Based on the discussion, let us go through the Zika outbreak in India. The first outbreak took place in 2017, where 3 human cases were observed in the city of Ahmedabad and 1 case in Krishnanagar in Tamil Nadu. Again in 2018, there were 2 outbreaks in the state of Maharashtra and Rajasthan. As you can see, there is a quantum jump just from the 3 cases to 130 and 159. And recently in 2021, it was the state of Kerala, Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh where majority of the Zika cases were found. So Zika virus is not new to India. It has already been there for a while now and it has been observing rising number of cases. However, it is not the case that every year Zika virus will be there in India. As you can see, it was not there in 2019, 2020 or before 2017. Now, based on the importance of this virus and the kind of outbreak and casualty it may cause, we need to take the following initiatives. The first one is the preventive steps and the awareness among the people regarding this virus, as we have done in the case of COVID-19. We need to identify the new mutations based on the history of a person, and this history means the medical history. We need a systematic and enhanced surveillance system, especially in the Zika virus prone states, including Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Kerala. We also need to identify areas of high incidences, that too in the intra-state region. That is the district-wise classification. And lastly, we have to provide the coordination among the state authorities. And state authorities here means the Panchayati Raj institutions, urban local bodies, developmental authorities, medical staff and hospitals, and many others. Here we also require to take the help from the central government in order to bring better expertise, capacity building and funds. With this discussion in place, now we come to the end of today's Daily News Simplified, and I leave you with question of the day. So read this question carefully and answer in the comment box. Thank you.